gonna spend my time alone, 'cause it ain't worth trying to find that lover's soul. I said it's better searching in myself, 'cause I couldn't give away my love or spend my time with anybody else. But oh, sometimes I believe I can make the change. Oh Lord, are you feeling the same way? I said I better change my sinking thoughts before they pull me under, to drown out everything I've got. And yet I find comfort in despair, 'cause I've wallowed in it far too long. When things go wrong, it feels good not to care. And oh, sometimes I believe I can make the change. Good God, are you feeling the same way? 'Cause I would do it for her if she'd do it for me. If this is where we ought to be. I am only a man, my sins of pride are swallowed down here by your side. Instead I'm gonna praise my stubborn heart, but I feel like dying, and I know I'm only at the start. And as the days go passing by, well, that window begins to close, and so it shows when months turn into years. Well, I'm trying, oh, I believe I can make the change. Good God, are you feeling the same way? I would do it for her if she'd do it for me. If this is where we ought to be. I am only a man, my sins of pride are swallowed down here by your side. If all should fail, so often does, of lack of passion and lack of trust. But I would do it for her if she'd do it for me. If this is where we ought to be.
I don't wanna friend. I want my life into waiting to get there, waiting for you. Gonna fight it all night. When I'm around, slow dancing in the dark. Don't follow me, you'll end up in my arms. You done made up your mind. I don't need no more signs. Can you? Give me reasons we should be complete. You should be with them, I can't compete. You looked at me like I was someone else. Can't you see?
Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to Krzair News, and it is a bit of an odd day to be doing this, that's for sure. Well, we didn't get to do it yesterday because of well, You see, the typical schedule is where I do it right after I get home from work on a Wednesday, which really doesn't give me any time to prepare for this, and because there really wasn't much happening the day beforehand, I didn't get to prepare for it. And I thought I'd just delay it till today so we can get a bit more stories into it. But unfortunately, there's been a bit of few big ones happening, so we're going to have to delay half of the stories till tomorrow, because both of them come with some big videos to go through and deconstruct and talk about, those type of things. But yeah, today's going to be a big one. Anyway, we've got a co-host today. Let's introduce him in. Hey Samba, how you going? You're back again.
Yes.
How was that League of Legends games you abandoned the show for?
Yes.
Oh my goodness. This is a bit weird to still do this on a Thursday though.
Yes.
Is that what we're gonna do? Yes.
Yes.
Ah. Perfect English, might I say.
Yes.
It's basically for people who don't have too much knowledge of history. Basically, one of the original commentators to get cancelled off the platform, Zaptie, was, well, accused of being a pedophile and amongst other things, and ultimately, he never disproved them. Today we have a video that may bring up some more context to it all. May. I mean, a lot of you guys should know who Nicholas Diori is, if you've been in amongst the community. I've talked about him a bit, the typical things. Let's get to it.
So, once again, very serious video.
Hey guys, welcome to I don't even know what to call this.
I guess you
it's
would
not
just
really.
call it
I
the
know.
last episode.
It's not really an episode. It's
So, I feel like people who do this should know there is not a place for them on this site.
One of the more controversial topics this year has been cancel culture. The
Ah,
term
yes.
itself has only been widely used for a few months. However, its
Ah,
impact
yes, cancel culture, the thing that just seemingly is wrong half the time. But let's cancel everyone anyway.
has been sort of polarizing. Articles have begun to surface not on the trending topic itself, but the idea of a community being able to come together to literally cancel someone off the website. What people seem to misunderstand is that this isn't a new concept. Cancel culture has existed for years in the YouTube space, and it was very prevalent with creators like Lionmaker, Red Kiwis, and Keemstar in 2016. It just didn't have a name yet. Many
Keemstar. Cancellation of him was hilarious. I guess. Maybe not.
creators have been canceled. Some you've seen, some you've forgotten, some you don't know, and some you will. While I'd admit I'm a supporter of cancel culture, I'd argue that everyone would be too if it only targeted actual rapists, pedophiles, and false accusers. What I don't support are false allegations, and while I just said I'm a supporter of cancel culture, it's hard not to look past the very steep shortcomings that have affected Slazo, James Charles, and Pro Jared of lately. But I'd argue
Basically, the core problem with cancel culture. People don't understand when to be real or not.
that their experiences weren't exactly cancel culture. When people explain cancel culture, they usually leave out the part where the creator regains their career. This has shown true for innocent creators like Slazo, and those who are still considered guilty, like Red Kiwis, who gained over 2 million subscribers since he was accused of, and seemingly admitted to, sending
Yeah, he got cancelled back in 2016. And then, well, his big one was in 2016, and then earlier this year there was a smaller one because he tried to be stupid.
Fair enough.
a dick pic to a child. Today we're going to take a look at the creator who's a
That's literally the best point to pause on.
Yes.
Also, I wouldn't be too surprised if this is just another stream that gets demonetized, because that's always happening, I swear. Actually, every second stream gets demonetized at this rate. It's hilarious.
Rare
Yeah.
breed. The YouTuber Zaptie was cancelled for many allegations differing in severity that would ultimately lead to him terminating his YouTube channel entirely and his subsequent social media accounts. Some of these allegations included being a sociopath, being a social climber, being rude to friends, and even allegations as serious as pedophilia. Some of these allegations
Ah, yes, that fun one that's been thrown against so many different people in this past year.
Yeah.
I swear, the best way to cancel a YouTuber is find a point where they've done some stupid things by talking to someone young, and then use that to cancel them. I swear.
I thought the best way to cancel a YouTuber was to accuse them of rape and then get them sent to jail for it anyway, even if it's not true. Oh wait, that's court system. That's real life. Never mind.
Oh boy.
allegations, specifically the sociopath ones, have been debunked and disavowed by those who took part in making them. The pedophile accusations appear to be very real and have been believed by many for what is quickly approaching 3 years. For this reason, Zaptie, or Ed, has been repeatedly doxxed and chased off any social media accounts he makes by the people who are still determined to find him this long after the drama had concluded. This one marks one of the rare scenarios where a YouTuber was truly cancelled. Our goal is to find out what exactly happened and whether or not these allegations still hold up today.
So, real reason, like...
Is that like an accidental editing mistake of that sociopath text still being there?
It's sad for me is because he could have avoided it. He ruined an incredible future for himself. He let down not just his friends but himself. I still feel like, oh, I really wish I could have done something, right?
Zaptie was a YouTuber who gained relevancy in 2016. Looking at his content that you could still find on archive channels, it's clear he's taken an inspiration from creators like Colossal is Crazy. His popular videos on movies and trending topics would ultimately contribute to his fast and successful growth. He would really hit his stride between July and October when he gained over 50,000 subscribers, which for its time was a pretty massive spike in growth. This in particular was partially due to a collaboration where he uploaded a video to Pyrocynical's channel, and of course the success of his growing podcast that competed with Baited in its prime called Hot Wet Soup. Everything was looking good for Zaptie, who would eventually drop out of law school to pursue YouTube as a full-time job. This was, of course, right up until a podcast was posted on February 2nd, 2017 called The End on the Hot Wet Soup YouTube channel.
Hey guys, welcome to, I guess, I don't even know what to call this.
But we're getting ahead of ourselves here. Let's talk about the other 4 major players in this game. On the podcast itself, you'll hear from Bionic Pig and Elvis the Alien. These two are joined by a 17-year-old, I'm Alex, and it's important to note as we try to decipher motivations.
Oh yes, I'm Alex, our favorite English commentator. He can go fucking commit death, I swear.
Oh,
Wait. Commit game end. Like, seriously, man.
game over.
It's a bit oppressive by me, but whatever. Like, I don't think he deserves his platform after what he tried to do to Slazzo earlier. Like, in all honesty, you help someone be accused of something extremely bad that can potentially ruin their career, then you double down on it when they debunk it all. I don't care what Alex does to make up for it. I don't think he deserves his platform anymore, because he really has no idea how to do things right without screwing over someone else in the process.
It's entirely possible that motivations vary from person to person. Utilizing the power of hindsight, we can clearly see that both Bionic Pig and Elvis the Alien have had nearly pristine careers since this event. If I had to steal a joke from David Chappelle, I'd say their YouTube permanent records are perfect, or as perfect as they could be. In fact, they're precisely one Zaptie away from being perfect. And this is from someone who had a Twitter spat with the both of them in the last 6 months. Moral of the story is that neither of them have ever made a mistake remotely as bad as this one ever again. However, Alex, well, not so much.
This could be a tactile backstab, or it could be down to carelessness. But let's consider a third option, that Alex is naive.
So, once again,
Very serious video.
Since the beginning, she was being cheated on with 4 other girls who were 16 and 17 years old. My problem with Michael was him admitting to doing things that he knew Che may not have wanted to do and being incredibly forceful.
The next thing I know, somebody's fucking got a hold of my testicles.
He can literally do what he wants to this man, who was straight, who was just doing his job for them.
Boy.
At this point, I think it's undeniable that is what's been going on.
Grabbed me by the fucking testicles.
Alex. Boy. You'd never learn, do you?
He turns to her and goes, oh, well, he's got a nice pair.
I know so many people who turn blind eyes to sexual predators, rapists, paedophiles.
But not you. You'll never turn a blind eye to predators. No. You'll go to the length of accusing people who aren't even a fucking pedophile or predator as one just because there's a slight sneaky suspicion that they are. I'm Alex. Oh boy, it's never gonna get old to insult him.
I know people who have known that people have done these things for months and they kept it quiet. And when I found out, I asked everybody how long everybody knew. They were like, I've known for months about the fact that everybody here is a sexual predator. And I'm just sat here going, you guys are fucking terrible. This has happened 4 times now. And it's also happened with people who've just disappeared who most people wouldn't know about over the last year as well. So like there are certain YouTubers just disappeared, most people don't know why, and it's because one of my friends will be like, so-and-so did this, and I'll speak to them, and then they'll be like, yep, and then they go. So like it's been this thing now.
And then there's Deodor Anthony, who requested that I not name him in this video at all, and as it progresses, you'll see why that's literally impossible. Sorry. Okay, so where were we? February 2nd, 2017.
When someone asks you not to disclose their name, but then you realize it's going to be impossible to keep the story intact with their name in there. Boy.
The end. Now let me preface this by saying there are a lot of moving parts in this podcast in particular, so bear with me. I'm going to explain the bare essentials.
I've just been called into work.
Now.
Yes.
Alright,
well, okay. Rip.
Well, that's just unfortunate.
Alright, well, I guess the co-host is not coming back today.
When you...
Alright, well, see you, everyone. This was a fun 10 minutes before I got called in.
Oh boy.
Alright. Bye.
Oh, that's just stupid. Timings.
Yes. Alright, see ya.
Bye. Oh. Just when you think you'd have a co-host, he gets caught in the way.
And add on the context that we wouldn't have known at the time. Thankfully, we have the power of hindsight here, or no doubt we'd just be as lost as the entire community was when this mess of a podcast was first released. The other 2 members decided to go forward with ending Hot Wet Soup without Zaptie in attendance to both explain and accuse him of various things. Zaptie would later defend his friends here, however, he's kind of wrong. These are definitely allegations. To get the message across, Pig and Elvis enlisted the help of allegedly Zaptie's best friend, I'm Alex.
I'm Alex. Never be friends with I'm Alex. It will only go terribly for you. I'm sorry. I am going to continue to beat that into the ground because you can't say it's not true. 7 minutes 29. I think we can just go to here. Just make it speak now.
About 4 or 5 days ago now, that he was a diagnosed sociopath. That's what it told me. Now, obviously, if you don't know what a sociopath is, the basics are he just can't feel human emotion. Now, obviously, this wouldn't be an issue if he hadn't have done a lot of things that Well, a lot of us kept really fucking quiet because he's our friend and we wanted to protect him and we wanted to help him. We wanted to sort a lot of stuff out.
The trio went on to explain how Ed was a diagnosed sociopath, and it became evident right off the bat that there was almost no knowledge of mental health within the group, and most of them had absolutely no idea what they were talking about.
Well, I would go to Ed and be like, what do you reckon I should do? And I
Sounds like I'm Alex in a nutshell. Whoa.
realised he just fed me what I wanted to hear because that's part of what he's been diagnosed with. At least that's what he's told us he's got, you know.
Yeah, I mean, we can't say 100% for sure because this is just what he's told us.
But... the thing, we can't even guarantee what he said is true because due to the condition he has, we don't know anymore. We just don't know.
We think he has.
He does know the difference between right and wrong because he has learned it from the people he's around. He has learned from us what right and wrong is.
I don't think being a sociopath degrades your ability to know what's right.
He does know what's right and wrong because I've sat in calls with him and I've told him and he knows and he has been aware and he's made moral decisions before. Like,
is this just another point of I'm Alex just coming up with bullshit to support bullshit? Sounds like I'm Alex. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I'm going to continue to drill in this point of I'm Alex not being a good person because it's what it is. Okay, I'll try to just ignore the I'm Alex part of the situation.
But just his morals, not other people's.
I mean, just look at his videos. Like, obviously, he knows what's right or wrong.
Well, he knows that Onision is a Tanamoto is somebody who should be attacked, and like
I reached out to Bionic Pig, who told me that he didn't even want to make this podcast in the first place, and this is backed up by a clip from the final episode of Hot Wet Soup where both Pig and Elvis imply they were pressured into making this in the first place.
Actually, I'm 100% against the end because
mainly I hated it. I hated it
mainly because it was all about his sociopathy that he doesn't have. Fuck that. You know, like we went on this huge thing against. We made this video entirely based on what we just assumed he had. You know, based on what he told us. I mean, we had no way of really knowing.
Let's be honest. If anybody else was in our position, they probably would have done the same thing because
depending on see, that's a point that I believe could be put into other forms of context. I don't know. Would you do the same if you were put in that same position? Would you do the same of ending things as soon as possible if you're put in that position? I honestly probably wouldn't. I probably would try. I don't know. It's a hard one to decipher because it's just like, how would you answer it? Like, it's a bit of a fucky situation. It's for sure.
Everything lined up, and we just, I don't know why we didn't just stop and think about it. But I mean, there were people pushing us, to be fair. But
for sure.
Yeah, like we were kind of a little bit pushed to do it.
If I had to apply some of my headcanon here and make an inference, I'd say that the entity that they're referring to was I'm Alex, because he took it upon himself to enter a podcast that was not his own and speak for approximately 56% of the runtime by himself. That's not an embellishment, I've done the math. But this
that actually sounds pretty good for and I'm Alex getting involved in something. Especially with what's been said about the Discord calls he got into with Blowblacks and Nick Diorio, where he talked for 90% of them.
Situation was primed to explode, causing major coverage. It's a situation that, even nearly 3 years later, is still known and referred to today.
So I'm like, alright, well, I tell Jimmy and Aaron, and we're like, well, how many people are affected by this? And I'm like, a good 100.
Ed later claimed that he said he was diagnosed with antisocial personality disorder, and Alex turned that into Ed was a diagnosed sociopath. He goes on to say that this was not the truth at all. He was actually diagnosed with major depressive disorder, showing some signs of post-traumatic stress disorder, and it was a narrative that Ed had made up. Alex denies this, says it's another one of Ed's lies. While it's impossible to know which is true, I'm leaning towards believing Ed here because this man literally said he was a pathological liar, and that didn't stop Alex from taking everything he said at face value, convincing Elvis and Pig to go along with his crazy scenario, and filming an entire hour podcast about a situation that they had no evidence from a verbal conversation with Alex that included, by the way, I'm a pathological liar attached to it.
Yeah, it sounds like a ridiculous thing that I Am Alex would do. Actually, that's interesting. Yeah, I would be more inclined to believe Zaptie for that one. Because he was honest about being a pathological liar. Which I don't think a lot of people are ever honest on, because, like, that's a big thing. Admitting that you're a pathological liar can potentially ruin so many things if you're not, I don't know, careful. This is weird. Let's continue.
That's fucking crazy, but it's impossible to know exactly what Ed told Alex, because the only other person to hear it was his ex-girlfriend Sabrina, who's apparently also not someone who was in the best mental state at the time, or in general. That showcases one of the biggest problems of this entire drama, that most of the story is rested in the spoken testimony of blatantly unreliable narrators. Not only was the ignition point of the drama verbally told to I'm Alex, someone whose word quite simply cannot be trusted, Zaptie himself was labeled as a pathological liar and a sociopath. Regardless of whether Zaptie being a diagnosed sociopath was a lie or not, calling someone a pathological liar in a public forum when you're not 100% sure really makes telling the truth kind of difficult.
Yeah, that's actually pretty good way to put that.
Now we're caught in a situation where whatever Zaptie responds with will be looked at through a microscope, and in some cases disregarded entirely, because the man is literally being branded as a manipulative, untrustworthy mastermind to begin with. And in Hot Wet Soup's defense here, Zaptie was apparently the person who said these things behind closed doors, and it is his fault for telling them. However, it begs the question, why was this mentioned in the first place publicly if it couldn't be verified? Except it would have been a question if Alex didn't already provide the answers?
And then I'm like, okay, so I'm never gonna out you, Ed, because like he's my best friend. Then I get harassed by like everybody else, a bunch of girls and people, to basically do something about it, right? And it was like, I mean, it wasn't harassment really, but like every DM, every day, every hour, Ed this, Ed that. Ed's your best friend. When are you going to tell these people? When are you going to tell that people? Then somebody called me up and basically said, I know Ed is this. I know Ed's done this. I know you know. So I'm like put in this situation where I'm like, are you fucking forcing me to say something? And it was like, yes. So I'm like, all right, well, I tell Jimmy and Aaron. And we're like, well.
Huh. That's interesting, but I'm not too sure if it's true or not. I don't know.
Well, how many people are affected by this? And I'm like, a good 100. Big YouTubers to small egos. So I was like, alright. I get in a call with Ed and I go, the gig's up.
The moral of the story is to introduce you to the situation and
So you, Pig, and Alex lied about Ed in the podcast. There was a lot of miscommunication during that time. He lied first, we spread the lie, he came out with what we assumed is the truth after. So he's not a sociopath after all? Potentially, yeah. Potentially that could be the case.
show you that many of the people involved admittedly handled the bulk of these allegations incorrectly, which is incredibly easy to do when you plan a situation like this with a man's career on the line in under a week.
Ed told me about 4 or 5 days ago now that he was a diagnosed sociopath.
Don't be fooled, these were 3 growing YouTubers, and I think a genuine reason for the podcast release was to protect their own names from being taken down with Zaptie.
Pig and I decided to take it down after Zaptie released his latest twit longer. The EP spread falsehoods about him we weren't comfortable with. Okay, then why didn't you take the time to talk to Zaptie, to figure out what was true or not, instead of making a video in which you now don't believe or don't feel comfortable with. What was the point?
In a situation that would have likely leaked in the coming days or months, I genuinely believe this was a public knee-jerk reaction. And if this was the only major allegation made, Ed probably could have moved on, and there likely never would have needed to be a video on my channel about it. However, this is not the case. In the podcast, Ed was also accused of cheating on his girlfriend with a number that had fluctuated between 3 and 4 girls. But in this case, they say 4 here. It's important to note that only one singular girl has come forward to the public in nearly 3 years since this happened, and we in the public don't even know for sure if those other girls exist. But wait, I know what you're thinking. Why the fuck does anybody care about a guy who was 19 or eventually 20 at the time cheating on a girl? We've all been to high school, some of us have been to college, and quite frankly, this isn't on the the internet needs to get involved here kind of issue. And I would normally agree. However, Alex says this.
Since the beginning, pretty much, from the timelines we've crossed over with all the girls, some we can't name, she was being cheated on with 4 other girls who were 16 and 17 years old.
Okay, so now we have an allegation. Other than this, the vast majority of allegations towards Zaptie have been debunked, or they were snowballs like, he's nice to big YouTubers and mean to small YouTubers. Well, accusing someone of being in a relationship with a minor is way worse than anything else Zaptie has been accused of. So it's all the more interesting why Alex and friends gloss over it here. When the first podcast didn't have its intended results, on February 5th, the pedophile accusations had begun to rain down on Zaptie from an accuser named Heather, another YouTuber named Yoder Anthony, his girlfriend, and ironically enough, you're not going to believe this one, I'm Alex.
Huh. So in the initial podcast, they do acknowledge the existence of the underage relationships for like a moment or two, but they brush over it like it's nothing. That's interesting. Like, why would you do that? Why would you brush over something that big, that potentially problematic?
I just don't get it. Why would you ever call your friend a paedophile? See, some spastic who hears this would be like, well, you could Zaptie a paedophile, but I didn't. I just said, like, fucks the wrong people.
Heather created a twit longer where she stated that she was manipulated, lewd images were exchanged, Zaptie encouraged her, and most importantly, she was 16 years of age. On top of that, she attached a few screenshots that made their way around quickly. This included the infamous, "You're worth getting arrested for" response that's so memeable, it's probably the biggest reason that these allegations have still remained largely unquestioned to this day. The first thing that caught my eye specifically was that the main twit longer right here says, "No nudes were sent," and the message implies right here that the girl was wearing some form of clothes. On top of that, these are very blatantly cropped, with no scrolling DM proof or extra context for each screenshot.
That's really good point. It's literally just a photo of messages. Don't have any context to any of it. It's just any proof that these are real, any scrolling proof, like, it's just, oh, hey, these messages, they were between me and blank, they're real.
We genuinely don't have any idea whether things like "you're worth getting arrested for" were a joke or not, because we only see what Heather wanted us to see. Before you say, oh, who joke about something like that, let me help remind you that I just vindicated a YouTuber who told the girl it's rape time in the DMs, and that girl was literally accusing him of rape. Context matters, and people make edgy jokes. Also,
that is very flipping true. Like, context always matters. You should never ignore context. But you know what's worse? When you take an edgy joke that a lot of people will be tenuous to make out of context just to, what? Try and ruin someone's career? Potentially? Sounds like the way we're going here.
So she claims she was manipulated here, but the only thing these screenshots show is her blatantly flirting with Zaptie. Claiming manipulation just seems like it was the right thing to say when you're dealing with somebody who's accused of being a sociopath already. On top of that, from a legal standpoint, wherever he was at the time had a legal consent age of 16, as confirmed by the entire cast of Hot Wet Soup, unless they were lying. Whether it was Canada or a state that he resided in, he could have legally had sex with this girl. For this reason, I was confused as to why this was even an issue at first. I rationalized it as such. Ah, well, I guess two people who legally could have sex with each other were in an e-relationship, whatever that means, for a few months, and then they had a falling out. The girl decided to call him out mid-drama for a bit of clout, and you know what? That's not a crazy leap of judgment to land on. And for all you Brits out there standing on your high horses with your arms crossed furiously, getting ready to spam my comment section, it's legal over there for you guys to do this shit too, so get the stick out of your ass. But this is where the story really goes off the rails, so hold on tight. A few months later, it had become public information that Heather had been lying to the entire community about her age. She was allegedly 13 years old. So now on top of all of that, Zaptie was catfished. So this leads to crazy theories that Zaptie's into prepubescent children, or Zaptie broke the law, or Zaptie knew the whole time, and the internet spiraled into a shit show. So just to summarize, we have a girl who claimed she was 16, who was 13, who claimed she was manipulated, but didn't show any evidence, and now...
What? Okay, let me think about that. So Zaptie had an e-relationship with a girl who he thought was 16 years old. It turns out that he got catfished, and the girl is in fact 13 years old. But the girl also claims that Zaptie manipulated her into the relationship. I don't know what to say to that. I really don't.
Now people are beginning to tweet that he sent and received nudes from this girl. And on top of that, these Snapchat leaks show Heather giving a statement in tweets by Deodor Anthony's girlfriend. I think it's funny right off the bat that she's friends with Hyojin, so we know just what community this is coming from. But right...
Huh. Hojin, you really... Hojin's name is just a name that you really just don't want to be attached to anything anymore, because it's just so potentially just not a good idea.
Here we see her admit to catfishing and lying about her age directly in these screenshots. But do you want to know what the real punchline is? Do you know the kicker? These Snapchats have nothing to do with Zaptie. I'm dead serious. This was in December of 2016, around the time that Heather was involved with Zaptie, but the same three people are involved simultaneously with an entirely different catfishing situation on an entirely different YouTuber. Are the red flags flying yet? And if you're curious...
What? I don't think there's one red flag here. There's like 5 million red flags just bouncing around. Just... What the hell? Are you a retard or something? Boy. Jeez, that's big.
These allegations went from, well, Nick Cash is sexting children, to, don't exchange nude with fans. The second Hey Watch Your Mouth asked him to show portions of the screenshot where Nick verified her age. I don't know the whole situation, I'm not well versed on the situation, but I do know one thing, it never went anywhere. Shocker coming from these people. Yeah, it's sketchy, but now let's get back to the plot. Now I'm second guessing literally fucking everything that I see, and I see this message I originally ignored entirely, and notice it says, weird question, did you save those pics? I'd have no issue if you did. Right there, blatantly on. Who the fuck asked a question like that? Listen, I'm not in many e-relationships because I'm a fan of turning Discord off once in a while, so somebody who might be into this, please fill me in and let me know, is this fucking normal? Oh, man, you know those pics that people think are illegal? Can you just clarify that you've saved them on your hard drive? I mean, that's such a perfect screenshot. It almost looks like she was fishing for it, for God's sake. And now I'm clearly speculating, so I threw up a Hail Mary pass and attempted to get in touch with Heather, and miraculously, by an act of God, she agreed to answer my questions.
I was actually talking to Ed about this the other day. about how like that entire situation absolutely ruined me. And like he was saying how like it was not my fault and I shouldn't blame myself for it, which was nice of him.
So I reached out to Heather with a few questions, and while she wasn't exactly happy to answer them initially, it seemed like she was happy she did by the end of it because her story really hadn't been told since the initial Twitlonger was released. So the first question I asked her right off the bat was how old was she when this took place, because her age had been up for debate, and her response was, I was 14 turning 15, and I told him I was 16 or 17. I don't remember. He wasn't aware. Nobody was. I came forward about my real age eventually, and I knew it was wrong, which is why I decided it needed to be said. And this adds loads of context right off the bat. It's entirely possible that she told him she was 17.
Unfortunately, at that point, that if you know what you did was wrong, then why did you continue to this is literally I don't know what to say. Seriously, I don't.
Because in December, she had stated that she was 17 years of age during the Nick Cash situation. So regardless of what she said in the original Twitlonger, it's possible Zaptie thought she was 16 or 17, since there's so many inconsistencies with the Twitlonger itself. Next, I asked straight up if Zaptie ever sent her nudes, because this has been a topic of discussion, and she responded with, no, he's never sent lewds or nudes.
Or anything or of that sort to me. I know he has to other girls, because I've been shown them, unfortunately. But never to me. I genuinely don't remember if this has been said before, but if he said he was planning a trip to Washington to come see me and have sex. But this is under the pretense that he's I don't know. But he's under the assumption that she was a lot older than what she actually was. Which in turn means that...
nudes or anything of the sort to me. I know he has to other girls because I've been shown them, unfortunately, but never to me. I genuinely don't remember if this had been said before, but he said he was planning a trip to Washington to come see me and have sex. And once again, one Google search away, it shows that Washington had a consent age of 16. So without...
Yeah, so practically, under Zaptie's assumption, what he was thinking of doing was completely illegal, because to what he has been told, she was 16. She was older than the consensual age.
Zaptie knowing her proper age, it's entirely possible that he had considered this at the time, and to expand upon that anymore would really be condemning Zaptie for a thought crime. Just to clarify what Heather said was true, I asked the same question to Bionic Pig, and this is what he had to say. I never saw anything about actual nudes, just sexting. I remember him messaging me about how sick he felt when he found out how young she actually was.
He wasn't going out of his way as like a predator, I don't feel like. Did he know that she was 13? Or did he think that did he know he thought that she was 16?
He told us, he told us that he thought, because I remember messaging both of us saying that he just found out that she was 13, and he said he was throwing up all night because
So basically, when it comes down to it, when he found out the actual age of the person he was talking to, he didn't agree with it, and he didn't feel well at all, which, that is completely understandable. That's just a shitty thing to do. Like, how does one go through with this?
He thought that she was 16, right? So he thought that she was 16.
16 is still bad.
I know that's bad, but he's...
In the context of his age at the time, it's a yes and no. No, it's... Yes, it's potentially morally wrong, depending on your own moral standing of things like that, but to the law, it's not wrong at all. It's perfectly legal because a person of 16 years of age in the state of Washington can give consent to an adult older than 18.
But you have to put it into perspective, right? Like, from my perspective, it's disgusting. But still, he's what, like 20, 21? How old is he? 21?
I think 20. 20, yeah.
He's 20?
He's 20.
So 16 and 20, that's not like a huge gap, right?
And that corroborates her story. This all checks out. So now it's gone from Zaptie sexting minors to Zaptie's been talking dirty to a girl who is catfishing as someone he could legally have had sex with, but no naked images were even exchanged. So I clarified with Heather, and she said this. Yes, it was legal in the circumstance that no explicitly nude images were sent. Provocative images were sent, but nothing 100% nude. So as far as I know, this doesn't even break the fucking law? So after I got that cleared up, I asked another question that would have served as an excellent opportunity for her to play victim if she wanted to do that, to see where her actual motivations lie. And to my surprise, she didn't do that. I asked Heather how she felt about exposing a YouTuber and how she felt about the backlash she had received, and this is what she had to say. I knew Ed ever since he had 600 subscribers on YouTube, so I was one of the people who knew him when he was just starting out his YouTube channel. And honestly, it's been one hell of a roller coaster ride. We would get into Skype calls with my friend Katie. Katie triggers me from Leafy is Here, so it really didn't feel much different when he began to gain as much traction as he did. When we started talking in that sort of way, I knew it was wrong. I knew it would get out in the end. It wasn't my goal to expose him, because I genuinely did like him, and despite our history, he's still a good guy. He's not a sociopath, he's not a pedophile, he's not a fucked up person. He didn't know I was that young at the time, and that's completely my fault. I knew right from the beginning when I posted that twit longer that nothing would be the same regards to my status, reputation, etc. But once all the allegations appeared on Hot Wet Soup, I felt like it needed to be said because some of my closest friends at the time had already known me and him were talking, and I knew it was only a matter of time before it got out there. No, I don't wish I did anything differently, and if anything, it was a step forward to doing the right thing. I don't believe in cancel culture, and a small part of me regrets exposing him in the first place because I knew he would make it far and he would become extremely successful. And then she went on to say, I felt like it needed to be said. Revisiting the situation 2.5 years later, now that I've matured and grown up, I definitely have more headspace to review and think my decisions through. And that pretty much just walks back all the allegations tenfold. Before you start losing your collective minds on Heather, I'm gonna be honest here, she really didn't have to clear that up. I honestly didn't expect her to clear this up, so I really appreciate her doing that. The girl was 14 years old when this happens, and I think she made a lot of mistakes, but I'd be disingenuous if I didn't say that I think people had been taking advantage of her and her situation to get back at Zaptie in some way, shape, or form.
Sounds like a thing a lot of people would do. Take advantage of a younger person who's giving them such a big story. Like, if you were a smart YouTuber who actually wanted to properly expose someone, you wouldn't just do it the way that people did back then. Because there would be something big that everyone pretty much would have completely ignored. The fact that she did catfish him. And that is a guarantee, no matter what way you put it. She made it out that she was 16, that she was of the legal consenting age for her area. In truth, she really wasn't. She was a few years younger. Which, I mean, I guess it's up to opinion on whether you think that's agreeable or not.
Do I think she's immune to criticism? Oh, fuck no. But I really appreciate her stepping out of the shadows to clear up an issue that's so commonly misrepresented.
Nothing like that is ever going to happen again. Like, I refuse to allow it.
Yeah.
I'm never going to talk about anything like that ever again. Like, it could turn out that somebody raped somebody. You're never going to get a fucking word out of me.
At this point, the sociopath thing had been debunked. The narrative had begun to crack, and Heather's allegations had been the only real damning allegation against him to warrant such a response. Both Deodor Anthony and I'm Alex took to Twitter to defend themselves and attack Ed. Their biggest pushback at the time came from Tommy C and Danarchy, who was formerly VWQ.
Because I know, first of all, there's no blood test for this. It's a subjective opinion of a trained professional, and that's it. They don't call it sociopathy. They call it antisocial personality disorder. And it doesn't particularly work like this. There is tests out there. There are, from what I understand, they are doing studies on brainwaves and stuff like that, but there's nothing concrete. And for him to say, I have been diagnosed with this, it just doesn't make any sense.
Danarchy had made
that's actually... Ooh, it's a bit iffy.
videos on the situation, the first of which got him on Tommy's February 15th show. It basically predicted a motive for Zaptie that ended up being one of the most true representations of what Zaptie was doing at the time, and I'll leave a link to that in the description down below if you'd like to check it out. Danarchy appeared on Tommy's stream to go over the last one of his videos, and this podcast is significant for two reasons. The first reason is it's really eye-opening how much Deodor Anthony was involved. Just to give you the backstory, Deodor Anthony had been a Patreon of Ed. He had been in the same friend circle as Ed. He was planning to go to VidCon and stay in the same house as Ed. His entire YouTube channel got started by Anthony being inspired by Ed. And now Anthony would never become a major player on the platform, but his hands were all over this specific drama, more so than I think that anyone initially realized. First of all, he spent an entire hour trying to convince Danarchy that Ed was a bad person.
When I spoke to someone directly affected by Zaptie's actions, they told me all the things that he had done, and shared with me some of the conversations they'd had. It's not my place to say, it's nobody's place to say, these are private issues. But at the end of the conversation I had with this person, even though they'd spent the last hour trying to convince me that Zaptie is a sociopath, I left even more convinced that these were all signs of depression.
Okay, that's a little weird, but then he tried to convince Tommy of the same thing.
Yeah, but that's the problem. Anthony didn't convince me of shit. In fact, he convinced me of exactly the opposite.
Okay, well that's just two people. I mean, that's nothing crazy sketchy yet. But while this was live, he attempted to call in.
And I'm not really interested in Anthony coming in. I know I like Anthony, but I think this is Alex's game.
And when Alex does call in, Alex says this.
Because you've spoken to Anthony, I know you have. Anthony had to convince me that Ed was bad.
And now it's getting a little sketchy, but if you think that's sketchy, hold on tight, because you ain't seen nothing yet. Then if you go back to the Hot Wet Soup podcast, you could hear them name drop him.
Some DMs Deodor Anthony had with him because...
And then it all starts to click. Well, if you look at Heather's initial tweet longer, she cites Anthony as one of the reasons she's coming forward. No, I'm not kidding. She literally links to one of the tweets that predates her tweet longer, and if that's not crazy enough, he actually tweeted her allegations 2 hours before she made her initial statement and poisoned the well before the victim even had a chance to tell her story.
Whoa, okay, Anthony. You seem to be a bit of a cocky man over here, my friend.
Heather in her twit longer said no nudes were actually sent. Anthony tells a very different tale. So Anthony was a Zaptie superfan who was donating not 5, not 10, not 20, not 50, but $100 a month to Ed, and at one point he even forked over $400 to get Ed a gym membership, only to find out that Sabrina had already given Ed money towards that, and he pocketed some of Anthony's money. And suddenly, now he's Zaptie's biggest critic, the one that's making these outrageous claims and not backing them up. Well, I got in touch with him too, and this is what he had to say. Yeah, those things were said to me. I can't remember what the word for word was as it was in a call, but I was pledged to him back when I was still at home and had a disposable income. To be fair to him, I had been pledging $100 a month since he had inspired me to start my own channel, but when I left my job, I couldn't do that anymore, and instantly, I got hostility from him in a call. I felt bad about it and thought I was screwing him over, but I just couldn't afford it. I almost kept pledging thinking that I could keep it up for a month or two before I'd have an issue. Ultimately, I didn't, and he still talked to me since we had the same friend circles, but it was definitely colder. I felt pretty used by that point, and since I was pretty naive, I hadn't learned much about dealing with online personalities. And I'm not gonna say anything rash or definitively accuse him of anything, but that's motive, and I think that's undeniable. When you take a look at the blatant fucking lies this man posted on Twitter that are still up 3 years later, it's so hard not to take this as malicious. Pictures on...
I mean, yeah. There's no way you can't take it as malicious, especially since he's trying so hard to push a certain motive to the point where, like, he's stumbling over his own foot.
Legal, it's child porn under 18, it doesn't matter in the eyes of the law. What pictures? I never spread the nudes being sent to Heather publicly. That was in this combo only. Everything I tweeted is verifiable. Verifiable by who, motherfucker? I talked to the sources. She claimed there was never any nudes sent. So what nudes are you talking about? Who the fuck are you lying to? Heather's statement was literally out 1 hour prior, and even then she could have verified this wasn't true. So you had direct access to her. If I'm able to track this girl down 3 years later, then you could have just sent her a message before you wrote this tweet. Why are you lying? Oh, and we can't forget this one. Skepticism is healthy, but I don't see why it's necessary here.
What? Hold on. You don't understand why skepticism is not... You say it's not necessary here. But the problem is, I feel like, regardless of everything, whether how true or how wrong as you are here, when it comes down to a situation where it's an accusation of being a pedophile, I believe skepticism is always needed. Otherwise, things could go so wrong.
Hey, hold up. Hey, don't question anything I'm saying, guys. Hold on. So we can't call you out on your blatant slander and degenerate bullshit, Anthony? Where the fuck are the other 3 girls, Anthony? You keep claiming there are 4 total girls, and I'm only seeing 1. And there are shitloads of these tweets. I'm just gonna let them roll while I continue my video. Thank you very much. It's a little telling that guys like Elvis the Alien and Bionic Pig had started to move on, while this situation kept getting escalated by Alex. Oh, hold on. Wait, I'm sorry. This one's fucking ridiculous. So you're admitting that you withheld this screenshot from the Hot Wet Soup podcast, and you were fully aware of this happening, but only when people didn't just accept that the most talented guy in your circle was a sociopath. That's when you decided he no longer deserves your defense anymore? What kind of logic is that, Anthony? He's only a pedophile when he doesn't go quietly? How about you call the cops if you got so much evidence, Anthony? But you didn't, did you? Yeah, that's what I fucking thought. And speaking of people who don't call the cops, I think now's a good time to discuss I'm Alex's involvement with this situation. A brief summary of this portion of the story would be a perfect 10 words by Tommy C.
Alex, what did you know, and when did you know it? Hot Wet Soup. What did you know, and when did you know it? Did you really believe that the community was going to turn around and say that I was supporting a pedophile, when I'm actually playing the role of the journalist on a topic that you put out in the public discourse?
And what did Alex know, and when did he know it? Well, he knew about the girls months before this even came out from this story.
You know, I was there for him. It's one of the reasons why I became best friends, because I knew about stuff that was going on in his life when he didn't know that I knew, and I hinted at it, and that's how we became good friends. I wanted to help him, and it's kind of sad, but I feel like this is one of the best ways to help him in a really fucking weird way.
Me and Ed became friends.
This is one of the best ways to help you in a really fucking weird way.
Because I saw a tweet about the fact that he cheated on Sabrina, and I DM'd him asking him if it was real. So that's pretty ironic. That's how the friendship started, because I was trying to help him not fuck more things up, because I like Ed a lot. I started talking to him knowing that he was a bit dodgy, but not knowing that he was mentally, Ed just wasn't there.
Yeah.
And that became apparent because he was very, very open with me. And he was basically telling me about how, he was so close to fucking, he had bad mental health issues.
Yeah.
Which we could, and the reason that we took solace in each other is because we could both heavily relate to each other, and YouTube practically saved our lives.
Oh, that's kind of weird, Alex. And that didn't lead him to expose Ed. It actually led to Alex planning on moving in with him.
So, I don't think people realize that me and Ed were on a friendship level, more than any other, average YouTuber. His dad knew who I was. I spoke to his dad. We were gonna fucking meet up at, Ed's place. We were gonna live with each other. It wasn't fucking memeing, the rent was arranged and shit.
So at the time, it was all okay in Alex's mind. He planned to move in with someone he already deemed as sketchy right out the gate. But where did it go wrong? What's Alex's motivation? Well, you've already heard the clip where he said he was basically blackmailed into backstabbing his friend. However, in the podcast, he says this.
I then realised that was wrong, and that we couldn't do that. I called him up the next day. He's about to watch a film, and I said, Ed, we've got to talk about this. How is this going to affect Aaron and Jimmy? How is it going to affect the Hot Wet Soup lads? I said to him, And he was like, I just didn't think it would be a problem, me being a sociopath, was his response. And then I said to him, you gotta understand that, like, we're not gonna want to do the podcast with you after this, you have to be aware. And he's like, well, do they know? And I was like, I'm sure they know at this point. I didn't really want to say that I told them, because he was still my best friend.
It's crucial that other creators know about this, just so he doesn't take advantage of them.
The thing is, for being a sociopath, is one of the key staples, is that he only can feel for himself. He told me this. He can only feel what comes from him. He can't feel what me or Aaron or Jimmy feel if we came to him and went, we got a problem, mate.
Was it because Zaptie did terrible things, or was it because someone forced your hand? On top of that, why were you okay with being the man's best friend and moving in together, only to go and do this just 4 days after Zaptie confided in you and says that he was diagnosed with antisocial personality disorder?
Wow. This is actually a lot of information to process in such a short amount. Like, I'm trying to keep commentary going, but I'm just trying to process everything that I'm hearing. Like, it's so much. Oh, hey, Truthless Note, welcome to the chat. Did you know the first French fries weren't actually cooked in France? They were cooked in Greece. Well, fun facts with Truthless Notes. Oh, boy, boy, boy. But yeah, in all honesty, this is... So by the sounds of it, we're I'm trying to put this together, but it's so difficult to do so, because it's... Like... How do you put something like this together?
Why not just ask him to get a second opinion? Was firing up an episode of his own podcast really the way to go public?
And when I was really, really disappointed with him, they had mentioned that he was talking to underage girls, but the podcast has this realm of, we're not trying to hurt, we're trying to help him. So when the so-called hard evidence comes out that he did have inappropriate contact, not illegal, it doesn't turn out, inappropriate contact with a girl under the age of 18, it was like, now we must separate.
Yeah, I'm out.
That... Huh. Like, on a moral standpoint, it's wrong to do these type of things with someone under the age of 18 when you're 20 years old, but legally, it doesn't really mean much. In fact, in a lot of countries, the age of 16 is the age of consent. I know it is for Australia, for a lot of states in America, and a lot of countries in Europe. Like, that's the average area. Some of them are even lower than that. Like, from a legal standpoint, he didn't do anything wrong, officially, to himself. Great point, Truthless Note. Philippines is 12. Like, there are some places with such young consent age that the only thing wrong about it is your morality. That morally it's wrong, but is it legally? No. Like, yes, you can go on the fact that it's morally wrong, that he shouldn't be doing this, he should know better, but unfortunately, all that's going to do is just that some people aren't going to agree with it, but he didn't do anything illegal, essentially.
Yeah, I'm posting on Twitter. Now, I tried to stop her because of the fact that it would not just damage my best friend, even though I knew he was wrong, and I knew that he was killing this girl.
Killing this girl? What do you mean, Alex? Enlighten us.
It would also damage the Aaron and Jimmy, who are also friends of mine. I was like, I can't let this happen. Like, we need to sort this out in private, which is what we've tried to do for 3 months.
It was so public as well. And like people were saying that it's my fault it was in the public eye, but like, alright, they're spastics you can't read because anybody with eyes would have seen people tweeting about it for like 2-3 days previous.
Yeah.
That is why we were.
Yeah, but it didn't really essentially get too big until that podcast where you, helped spread it out amongst his actual audience. Doesn't matter if it was being talked about a few days prior to when you released everything, when you helped get it all out there in the end, because essentially it was a little bit of noise that ultimately got brought more attention when you talked about it in a podcast that Zaptie was on.
We were all pushed to talk about it publicly. So we went on Hot Wet Soup and we were like, alright, let's fucking end it. But
Ed told me and he was a sociopath. His mistake was telling because she isn't in a stable condition. That was his downfall. And this is one of the things, like, as a sociopath, I honestly do not have a fucking clue why he did that. Because I told him I would kept it a secret. I told him.
Did you guys not have
lies?
And now it makes perfect sense. Ladies and gentlemen, we have cracked the code. So this was only an issue when people found out about it, and you realized that you could easily be tied to it. So you felt the need to get out ahead of tweets the vast majority of the community hadn't seen on some girl's Twitter profile, and put it on a platform where everyone would see it. So you had no issue with the
Yeah, like, that's a great way to summarize that. Practically, they didn't want to get their whole platform wiped out of existence. They didn't want to look bad because someone on a small Twitter page said something about it. This was back at the time where these type of stories didn't blow up as much as they do currently. And you know what they did? They made a podcast framing Zaptie for so many things, whilst all in all, it really wasn't true.
girls, the alleged sociopathy, or any of the other things that you knew were going on until it was your ass on the line and you got Ed into a call and said,
the gig's up.
That's pretty fucked up, Alex. That's accuse my friend who lived with me for a few weeks of rape kind of fucked up. You do remember this guy dropped
Back to the Slezzo
out
stuff.
of college to do YouTube full time, right? That hasn't been lost on you, but that's not even the end of it. This man's lies show no bounds. On Tommy's show, he states that he had no idea how old the girls were, and he had no idea that they allegedly exchanged nudes, when on the Hot Wet Soup, he was actually the one to make the initial allegation.
Yeah, but that's when you cut ties. Exactly. But I mean, what did you think that they were doing prior to that? You were aware of it when the podcast came out. What did you think? You think they were exchanging jib jabs like me and Aeon did? And Valentine's gifts and chocolates?
No, I didn't know they were talking until after the podcast. That was my problem.
Wait a minute. Doesn't he mention? Look, V. Doesn't he mention in the podcast that he knows about these underage girls? I'm sorry, Alex.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Alex, I'm sure you said in the podcast that you knew that he was speaking to underage girls.
I'm pretty sure we didn't know that or mention it on the cast. What I knew is that he was cheating on 4 girls.
She was being cheated on with 4 other girls who were 16 and 17 years old.
That's what I said. It was 4 girls at the time.
You said cheating, but you didn't know that they were underage on the podcast, and you didn't say that. You're saying that right now on my show.
It's important. There's more than 4. So
so there's more people, Alex.
Of age, but like he had his in real life girlfriend, Sabrina, and 2 other artists in our community.
No, the only thing that's important is what you said in the podcast now, Alex.
He attempted to discount all his critics through a swarm of deleted messages, and in his podcast, he deflected criticism by saying they just lacked research and that they were uncredible spastic Discord members.
What?
That was the funniest thing about that situation. The only people who took issue with it were Discord people, and they were just, but like, all their research was like absolutely fucked.
What?
I mean, like, that situation wasn't good. It wasn't handled well at all. But like,
Alex.
I still do not believe I was in the wrong in that situation at all. And I never will do. Yeah, fucking moral high ground disco bankers. Okay.
And all those fucking commentary channels that made videos on it. Like, who was it? Was it VWQ who made a video on you?
Like 3 fucking videos in a row. Like, he's a top man. Like, fucking Dan.
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
He's a top man. But it was just like, the only people who had issues with it were like, the people who are either really, really desperate for attention at the time, or spastic Discord members. There was nobody who was respectable or actual friends of me or Ed in that situation. I still stand by this today, no matter if it offends people. I don't give a fuck anymore. Who didn't understand where we're coming from, because everybody who knew Ed knew he was pretty fucked.
Yeah.
Everybody had no fucking clue who the guy was, and just like, oh, good YouTube, I did Purge Part 2.
When he's seen here
What?
in this fossil of a tweet, not only co-signing the allegations from Anthony, but accusing Tommy C of being a pedophile for simply defending Zaptie when the information wasn't readily available when Tommy made his initial tweets. And there are even more blatant contradictions that I'm not going to get to here, so I've uploaded an entire 30-minute stream from May 16th, 2017, and it'll be going live shortly after this video is released. I'll also be live on Shot from the Point directly after to analyze this. The links for both will be down in the description box below.
Do we know that for a fact? Because I don't know if that's ever come out. I mean, we had an accusation. Do we know that for 100% fact that he's
So
received?
it's like, he's committed a crime, right?
All right. Do we know that for a fact?
Yes, because it counts as soliciting even if you
Okay,
just
no.
said, like,
Do we know? Do we have physical evidence that the police been turned over?
yeah,
Hey,
evidence,
V, have you ever found any absolute definite proof in your covering this topic that pictures are being exchanged? Because I think Ed denies that, and it's went longer, if I'm not mistaken.
All I've got is
no,
that.
Hang on, Alex. I'll get right back with you. I'll give you a chance to respond.
All I've got is that that one particular girl has sent photos to him. Not that he's sent anything back, and I don't know. I have it on.
Have we verified?
Have we verified?
Are these pornographic in nature? These photographs?
These are they're underwear.
Alex, I'm asking
photos,
V. I'm asking V. I will give you a chance to defend yourself. I promise.
They're underwear photos and no full nude.
No full
And
nudity, so it
also-
probably doesn't fall under American, at least in Ohio. Nudity
It's
laws.
also worth pointing out that the same person has pictures of herself in her underwear on her Twitter.
Oh.
So part 1 really covered the allegations utilizing the information that was in the public forum for the events that transpired in 2017. Part 2 will release tomorrow and cover everything that happened with Zaptie's return, the aftermath of Zaptie's return, and the impact on the community with my opinions of Ed tacked on at the end. It'll be a
We
nice
got a
summary for the
part
entire
2.
story, and then we can move on with the situation. Now, if Ed would like to reach out to me at any point, I would be happy to take an interview from the man to see what his life has been like in the past 2 years and to see what he thinks of my interpretation of events. So if you're listening, Ed, I'm happy to hear your side of the story.
No, tell it to me. I'm sending Alex my Skype right now. So he can add me and I can add him. And no, we can't review. I don't want Alex getting bombed with.
Yeah, I know.
with
That's why I
bullshit.
was thinking.
Dun, 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 dun. Shit, I just exposed it.
That's the first clue.
Fuck.
Now what do we do?
Wow. Okay, so he's saying that he's got another one to upload tomorrow. Boy, this is so much. So basically, this is part 1. It includes an overview of the events that... Boy, this is actually like, okay. Let's just take a moment to think about this. So tomorrow we've probably got the second part to go through. So I may potentially start the stream at like 2, like an hour or 2 hours before the normal time, because not only do we have probably part 2, which may be just as long as part 1, but we've also got a continuation to the whole Mr. Beast stuff to go through as well. That's a lot. That's actually a lot to go through. In all honesty, I think I'm gonna have to like sit this one overnight and just think about this. Like, this is a lot of information to to sit through. Like, I've honestly got nothing. I honestly have got nothing left to say because I honestly don't know what to do. Like, just, this information's just gonna take a bit to sift through. Maybe, man, I may watch it again later today, to just try and get a further understanding of what's happening. But this is, I don't know. Like, I don't know. I don't know what to do. Like, obviously, I'm trying to sift through this information. It's, like, a lot. It's a lot of information to go through. And then we've also got to go through... Like, this has been a bland ending. Yeah. I'm at this point where I am unsure of what to go over, as this is a lot of... Like, that's a lot of information to think about. And clearly... not everyone's going to have... You know what? I'm just gonna end it at this. Like, clearly I don't know what to say. This is literally a lot to think about. But as I said, depending on... So Nick Diorio's video will probably be released while I'm asleep. And depending on how long it is will depend on if I start the stream early or not. Because we do have an interview from that Mr. Beast ex-editor with Kavos to watch through, which is about 15 minutes. We want to go through that and just decipher it all. He's also now released his own video, finally. So that's a very big piece to go through, especially since I covered it earlier this week. But also a second video... It's too much. It's been dead in the flipping... Drama's just been dead in the water for the past few weeks. And all of a sudden, it all comes in a 2-day expanse. I don't know. Guess we'll see what happens tomorrow. But I do believe that I'll probably end up streaming it like 2 hours earlier, so probably about 11 o'clock Australian Eastern Standard Time. Maybe sooner, maybe later. I don't know. Depends on the length of Nick's video, because we want to have as much time as possible to go through and deconstruct everything for... We just want to be able to go through it all. Get proper opinions and deconstruct it, which we really couldn't do with this one because it's just so much in one go. But I feel like we'd probably spend about a while on the Mr. Beast stuff, trying to just debunk it, and probably if we have one of the co-hosts back tomorrow, we'll probably argue about certain things there. I don't know. I guess we'll find out what happens next. Anyway, if you did enjoy the stream, make sure to subscribe or follow, depending on which platform you're on, and make sure to turn on notifications so you know when I next go live. Like, that's a given. Leave a like on the YouTube stream if you haven't already. It would be much appreciated. And as always, till next time, enjoy your... I'm trying to find a song. Shut it. Enjoy yourself. Bye.
Well, some songs are happy and some songs are sad. Some songs are really well rehearsed and other songs are bad. Well, some songs are angry and some songs are sweet. Some songs are made to help you wake up in the morning. Well, here's a little song to help you go back to sleep. There isn't any God, and when you die, you're just dead. And heaven's just a fairy tale to put you to bed. Sometimes I think about the chance that I'm wrong, and then I close my eyes and just remember this song. I said there isn't any God, and when you die, you're just dead. And heaven's just a fairy tale to put you to bed. There ain't nobody watching us, 'cause nobody cares.